I'm the adopted daughter of a mafia boss. I've set my sights on an incredibly handsome CEO. I want him in my bed. So I became his kept woman, playing the role of a helpless, delicate woman he seems to fancy. When his business rival kidnapped me, I had to use my combat skills to save myself. When he arrived at the scene, he found 3 men lying unconscious on the floor and another one kneeling at my feet. Oh dear, how do I explain this? Will my carefully crafted image crumble? Oh no, my handsome CEO is leaving me. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. I was awakened by a bucket of water splashed on me, opening my eyes to see which bastard had the nerve to do this. This was an old warehouse, with 4 punk thugs standing in front of me. I was sitting on a chair, my hands tied behind it, and my feet bound together. My wet clothes had become nearly transparent. One of them, with yellow-dyed hair, looked at me lustfully. Lads, what a prime bird we've got here. Let's all have a go. The one with purple hair quickly objected. Don't be daft. She may look delicate, but she's Samuel Hartford's precious darling. I wouldn't dare. Besides, the boss needs her to get that estate in Eastern. Don't mess this up. The red-haired one sneered. What's to worry about? Everyone knows Samuel's a neat freak. She won't dare say a word if she wants to stay by his side. As his grubby hand reached for me, I lifted my bound feet and kicked him precisely in his privates. Arg! He collapsed to the ground, rolling in pain, while the others stood there dumbfounded. So much for their supposed helpless woman. I'd already freed my hands while they were busy chattering. The rope knots were amateur work. Such carelessness, TSK. It had been a while since I'd had a proper fight. My fingers were itching for action. I quickly stood up from the chair. At the same time, the blue-haired thug nearest to me pulled out a knife and lunged. I nimbly dodged sideways, grabbed his arm, twisted it hard, and the knife clattered to the floor. I caught the falling knife and swiftly sliced his throat. With a weapon, this would be quick work. The yellow-haired one charged at me with an iron bar. I cleverly evaded his attack while plunging the knife into his chest. When the red-haired one struggled to his feet wanting to fight, I grabbed the nearby chair and smashed it over his head. He swayed and collapsed unconscious. The purple-haired one, being the wisest, dropped to his knees begging for mercy. I sat down on the chair and untied the ropes around my ankles. Looking at Purple Hair Guy, I said, "Come with me and play along. Tell them you saved me. I need to maintain my fragile image." Understand? Purple Hair Guy nodded frantically. Yes, absolutely, miss. I glanced at the anklet Samuel had given me. Though he never mentioned it, I knew it contained a tracking device. If only I had waited for him. But no, in that situation, I had to act. Waiting for help would have been too late. Just then, with a loud clang, the iron door burst open. Samuel rushed in with a group of men. His eyes immediately locked onto Amelia Walton from across the room. Amelia! Thank goodness, he arrived in time. She appeared unharmed. His tense nerves finally relaxed. Then his gaze fell upon the 3 men lying on the ground and one kneeling beside the woman. His lips twitched. Following his line of sight, I looked at the scene before me. Oh dear, how would I explain this? Would my fragile image crumble? Would I lose my damsel in distress status? Purple Hair Guy reacted quickly, grabbing the ropes from the ground. Mr. Hartford! I was just untying Miss Walton. Please spare me, sir. I didn't harm her. I immediately stood up and ran toward Samuel with pretend sobs. Samuel, you finally came. Sob, I was so scared. Samuel held me tight. Don't be afraid. You're safe now. Feeling his slightly trembling body, I froze for a second, surprised by how much he cared for his fragile Amelia. I turned and pointed at the Purple Hair Guy. He switched sides at the last moment and saved me. Samuel took off his suit jacket and draped it over my shoulders, then lifted me into his arms. All right, I'll spare him. I instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck and pretended to faint. After all, for an ordinary person, this would have been quite traumatic. For someone as delicate as my character, lasting this long was already remarkable. Samuel was worried and took me to the hospital. After a thorough examination confirmed I was fine, he brought me back to the Hartford mansion. Before the land deal in Eastern was officially secured, I had to stay obediently in the mansion. While he was making phone calls on the balcony, I sneaked into the bathroom. I opened the hidden clasp in my necklace, took out a SIM card, replaced it, and made a call. Nora answered with concern. "Amy, I heard you were taken to the hospital. Are you all right?" Nora Johnson, 2 years younger than me, had been my loyal companion for years. We were as close as sisters. "I'm fine, it was just a precaution. I was careless this time. Sean Campbell, Samuel's archenemy, kidnapped me. Get some people to teach him a lesson," I said. Nora replied, "Our organization received Mr. Hartford's assassination contract half an hour ago. Don't worry, we'll deal with Sean properly. How dare he be so blind as to mess with the wrong person? Assassination? We can't take that contract. He's a legitimate businessman, we can't let him get involved in these matters. Cancel the contract. Just teach Sean a lesson according to our organization's rules." "All right." "Amy, aren't you tired of this? You said you'd be back in a couple of weeks, but now. Bloody hell. Walter's in his stealth gear, he hasn't taken action in years. Sean's definitely done for." Walter Edwards, a middle-aged man, was my adoptive father and the boss of our organization. I grew up in an orphanage since my earliest memories. When I was 10, I escaped and he adopted me. Walter never married or had children, and he treated me like his own daughter with great care. He had wanted to raise me as a normal child and initially opposed my joining the organization. But I was determined to become stronger. To become a top operative, refusing to be bullied by anyone. Later, I learned that no matter how many bodyguards Sean hired, Walter always managed to thrash him undetected. Meanwhile, Samuel relentlessly defeated Sean in brutal business wars, causing heavy losses to both sides. Sean eventually developed severe depression and ended his life by jumping from a building. "Amelia, are you in there? Why is your phone switched off?" Samuel's anxious voice came from outside the bathroom. I quickly hung up the phone. Just being out of his sight for a moment made him anxious and jumpy. My phone probably died. "I'm having a shower," I called out weakly through the door. "As long as you're all right. Come out for some fruit when you're done." "Okay," I replied sweetly. To cover my lie, I took a quick shower. When I came out, Samuel was still waiting by the door. He held me tightly in his arms, as if afraid I might disappear the next second. "Amelia, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm so terrified of losing you," he whispered in my ear. Feeling his strong heartbeat, I patted his back and softly comforted him. "I'm fine, see? Don't be afraid." He released me slightly and turned to kiss me. I loosely wrapped my arms around his neck. He lifted me up, and I instinctively wrapped my legs around his lean waist. My slippers falling to the floor. Supporting me with his arms, he carried me to the bed. After our passionate encounter, he took my left hand, inhaling the scent of the agarwood bracelet. "It smells lovely." He seemed to adore this agarwood fragrance, having been captivated by it since the first time we met. A month ago, I completed the most challenging mission with the highest bounty in our organization. I almost got killed during that mission and nearly lost my dignity. The final target was at an exclusive club. After eliminating a drug dealer, while retreating in my work uniform, I was mistaken for a waitress and pulled into a private room. There were only 3 men drinking inside. Just as I was about to leave, I saw this man. His eyes were half closed, with long eyelashes, a high nose bridge, and a clean jawline. His delicate features exuded both nobility and masculinity. Absolutely gorgeous. The man was half lying on the sofa, revealing a small section of his waist that looked powerful. His long legs, one foot on the coffee table and the other on the sofa, outlined quite an impressive physique. I'm in love. Rather than losing myself during some mission, I'd rather choose a handsome man myself. With these looks and this body, it's definitely worth it. I walked to his side and took a photo of his face, sending it to Nora. I needed his complete profile within 5 minutes, especially what type of woman he fancies. Hey, what are you doing? Taking photos while he's drunk? Delete that. You can't mess with this boss. Samuel's charm never fails. This beauty walked in and didn't even glance at us too, just kept staring at him. The guy who asked me to delete the photo wasn't bad looking himself. And his tone was mostly kind, so I held back from hitting him. Just as I was about to turn away, my hand was caught. Samuel's grip was strong as he pulled me into his arms, making me fall onto his lap. He leaned close to smell my agarwood bracelet, lovely scent. For some reason, he suddenly sat up straight. As if suddenly sobering up, and smelled my bracelet again. His gaze locked onto my face, then turned it to the side, searching for something. If I hadn't taken a fancy to this man, his bold moves would have earned him a slap. His pupils contracted slightly as he asked with a trembling voice. "What's your name?" "Amelia Walton." Strangely, I gave him my real name. I used an alias in school, and in the underground world, I'm known as Q. Few people know my real name, and he won't be able to trace it. He murmured, "Amy." After a moment, he looked at me seriously and said, "I'll protect you from now on. Come home with me." Before I could answer, he grabbed my wrist and headed out. The other 2 men inside exchanged bewildered looks. The Ice King has melted. The old bachelors finally caught fire. After calling for a chauffeur service, Samuel and I sat in the back seat. He held my hand tightly while keeping his eyes closed. He must have been feeling quite ill from the drinking, yet trying his best to stay conscious. I quickly checked my phone, holding it low by my side, to read Nora's message. Samuel Hartford, 27, CEO of Hartford Group, net worth over billions of pounds. He has a half-brother from his father's previous marriage. Had one girlfriend, Emily Bryant, who is now abroad. He has a preference for delicate, dependent women who follow his lead. Wow, proper aristocracy. Though I'm fairly well off myself, compared to this mogul, I'm merely small fry. I'd originally planned to keep him, but TSK, looks like I'll be the kept woman instead. That night, I thought we'd end up sharing an intimate moment. But instead, he handed me over to his butler before heading upstairs to crash. He only left these words, "This is a very, very important guest. Take good care of her, I must see her first thing in the morning." Butler Joseph was extremely courteous. And after getting me settled, I retired to the guest room. Nora was thoroughly supportive of my plan to seduce this elite CEO, sending me several novels overnight for character research. My incompetent darling wife. The tycoon's fragile new songbird. The nemesis who became helpless after amnesia. Quite a bit of homework indeed. The next day, when I came out of the guest room, I found Samuel waiting outside. He anxiously leaned closer to examine my left cheek. Then took my wrist, sniffing the agarwood bracelet with a beaming smile. Thank goodness it wasn't a dream. What's wrong with him? If he likes bracelets so much, he could just buy one himself. It's not like he can't afford it. Though I was grumbling internally, remembering my role, I sweetly called out, "Mr. Hartford." He gave a soft in response, his smile growing wider. "From now on, you'll stay here. No need to work at the club anymore." Fortunately, the club was under our organization's management. And Nora had sorted everything out last night. If we hadn't moved quickly, the whole thing would have fallen apart. He led me to the dining room downstairs for breakfast. I ate everything he put on my plate without protest. By the end, I was quite full. He looked at me adoringly and ruffled my hair. Such a good girl. Good heavens, I hope my picky eating habits won't be cured here. After breakfast, he took me for a walk in the garden to familiarize myself with the surroundings and digest the meal. The garden was quite large, but staying true to my fragile persona. I claimed to be tired halfway through. Without hesitation, he swept me up in his arms, wearing a satisfied smile. Well, it seems he really does fancy this character type. Oh well, might as well go with it. From then on, I put on an Oscar-worthy performance, maintaining my helpless and fragile persona with unwavering consistency. I couldn't open water bottle caps. I couldn't lift anything remotely heavy. Even a slight breeze could supposedly blow me away. He acted as if he knew I wouldn't stay long, wanting to spend every moment with me. He preferred working from home, barely went to the office, and postponed all business trips. Over 2 weeks, he showered me with gifts. Houses, cars, money, clothes, handbags, jewelry, and whatnot. He even gave me a private island overseas. He doted on me to the extreme. But there was one thing I wasn't satisfied with: he hadn't made any intimate advances. Frigid? Impossible. Sometimes when I brushed against his thigh, I could clearly feel his arousal. Which beast wouldn't be frustrated when unable to taste their prey? Fortunately, an opportunity presented itself. He took me to a gathering with his best mates. As it turned out, the other 2 gentlemen I met that night in the private lounge when I first met Samuel were his closest friends. That night, Frende had just returned from abroad, making it a rare occasion for the 3 of them to be together. Tonight's gathering was arranged by Samuel to make up for leaving early last time. My clever plan was to pretend to be drunk, despite the fact that I could hold my liquor remarkably well. Initially, they politely offered toasts, and I courteously reciprocated. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere at the table became livelier. Samuel couldn't even stop them as the drinks kept flowing. "Friend B, Amelia, you're quite good at drinking. Let's have another round, and I'll tell you some embarrassing stories about him. It'll be hilarious." Samuel quickly pressed down the glass I was raising. "That's enough now. You lot are trying to get her drunk. Friend A, it's getting late anyway. Let's call it a night and let the lovebirds have some time to themselves. They're in their honeymoon phase, and we single chaps should know better." While Samuel was settling the bill with his card, I went to the ladies' room. On my way back, I overheard his 2 mates saying something about how Old Hartford had finally found the right one, and this time he shouldn't mess it up. Must have been the alcohol talking. Back at the Hartford mansion, Samuel escorted me to the guest room. As he was about to leave, I hugged him from behind. "Don't go, stay with me." After these 2 weeks, holding hands and hugging had become natural for us. He gently stroked my head. "I was just going to make you some hangover tea." I held him tighter. "I'm not drunk, I don't need tea. I just want you to stay. It's always the drunk ones who insist they're sober." He sighed. "All right, are you feeling unwell from drinking? How should I stay with you?" I boldly demanded. "Sleep with me." He paused for a moment. "All right." Still fully clothed, taking so long I'll have to pounce on him myself. Without another word, I tugged at his clothes and pushed him onto the bed. I straddled him, feeling his breathing become rapid. His voice turned husky. "Is this what you want?" I nodded eagerly. He flipped us over in one swift movement, pinning me beneath him. "Are you sure? Do you know who I am?" "Samuel Hartford." He kissed me hard while undressing me, and I eagerly helped remove his clothes too. My persona? Who cares when drunk? Maybe it's my alter ego taking over, no problem. Heavens above, how long had he been starving for this? He asked, "Does it feel good?" My alter ego replied, "Yes, you're amazing." Samuel seemed greatly encouraged and became even more passionate. "This is my first time." I thought his skill meant he was experienced, but it was his first time. Well, natural talent then. In the deep of night, under the crescent moon, passion consumed the room. A month had passed, and while I hadn't grown tired of Samuel, I was weary of this sheltered life, living like a caged songbird without any excitement. Due to an international project, Samuel's business trip kept getting extended, and he couldn't delay it any longer. Taking advantage of his absence abroad, I packed my bags, planning to return to the organization to take on some assignments to pass the time. As I descended the stairs with my suitcase in hand, the shock in Joseph's eyes was almost palpable through his composed butler facade. Oh dear, my carefully maintained image just crumbled. Joseph hurriedly blocked my path and asked, "Miss Walton, where are you going? When will you return? I have some matters to attend to." "Humph, how considerate of you to leave on your own. Now that I'm back, you little replacement." A contemptuous female voice came from the doorway. The woman standing there had large eyes, a delicate nose bridge, fair skin, and wore a light green chiffon maxi dress that accentuated her graceful figure. I curiously asked the butler, "Who is she?" Joseph looked towards the door. "She's Emily Bryant." Emily Bryant, the name rang a faint bell. Then I remembered she was Samuel's ex-girlfriend. I asked her, puzzled, "What do you mean? Who's replacing whom?" She raised her wrist with a flourish. "You're my replacement, get it? Think about it, doesn't he adore your agarwood bracelet? And don't you have a mole on your ear?" I noticed she wore an agarwood bracelet similar to mine. This woman went straight for the kill. Her words rendered me silent. Because everything she said seemed to be true, and I couldn't argue against it. She looked triumphant. "Do you understand now? I'm his true love, and now that I'm back in the country, there's no place for you by his side. Saw it off." I walked up to her and slapped her across the face, leaving a clear red handprint on her cheek. Bloody hell, that was only half my strength, and it left such a mark. If I'd used full force, her lip would definitely be bleeding. If there had been a cup of tea nearby, I would have loved to wash her mouth out with it. Joseph, the butler, stood frozen, not daring to breathe. Well, so much for maintaining my facade as the helpless, fragile wife from my incompetent darling wife. "Ah," she screamed, clutching her face. She clearly hadn't expected me to strike her, looking both stunned and frightened. How dare you hit me?" She tried to slap me back, but I caught her hand and pushed her away. She stumbled and fell to the floor. Scrambling to her feet, she spat furiously. "Everyone says you're this helpless, fragile thing, but you're just acting. You know you're just copying me because I'm Samuel's true love. You're absolutely disgusting. What utter rubbish. Makes me sick." I stepped closer, patting her cheek. "I slapped you simply because I don't tolerate being told to sod off. It has nothing to do with anything else you've said. Remember that." I had to make this crystal clear. I didn't want her thinking I hit her out of jealousy. I, Amelia Walton, have a reputation to maintain. Dating a handsome tycoon? That's perfectly fine. But being known as someone who beats up weak women out of jealousy? That's beneath me. How could I face my associates after that? In our circle, women are decisive and efficient. We don't lose our heads over romance. The butler tried to stop me, but I gave him a bright smile. "Thank you for your care these past months." Without a backward glance, I picked my favorite car, tossed my suitcase in, and drove out of the Hartford estate. Back in my luxury flat, Walter was sitting on the sofa scrolling through his phone. "Oh, thank goodness you're finally back. Walter, Nora, you're both home. Perfect timing, I've brought you something special," I said while crouching down to open my suitcase. "If you hadn't come back, Nora and I were about to send someone to fetch you." Nora, Amy, quite a few hitmen organizations have received contracts to assassinate Samuel. The bounty has risen to £100 million. It's too dangerous for you to stay by his side. Good thing you're back. I'd been so focused on playing the role of his protected companion that I hadn't kept up with the underground news. My previous cheerful mood instantly vanished. I stopped what I was doing and stood up. "Can we trace who placed the contract?" Nora shook her head. "Nothing concrete yet, but there's a 99% chance it's his half-brother Henry Hartford." I took out my phone and sent Samuel a message from an unknown number. £100 million bounty on your head. Watch out for Henry Hartford. That's all the warning I can give. The rest is up to you and your money, man. Sure enough, within half an hour, the organization received a protection contract for Samuel worth £200 million. Quite tempting. Forget it. I don't want to be misunderstood as wanting to be a mistress. Nora hesitated before speaking. "Sammy, is Samuel actually a player?" She handed her phone to Walter and me. The trending topic caught my eye. Hashtag National Sweetheart Emily Bryant returns. Hashtag Samuel Hartford Emily Bryant confirmed. Clicking through, there were videos and photos, mainly of Samuel and Emily dining and shopping together. Looking at the photos, they both appeared younger. These must have been taken several years ago. To my surprise, Emily turned out to be quite an influencer. with several million followers and quite a fierce fanbase. Someone had posted photos of Samuel and me, and the comments were remarkably unanimous in attacking me, calling me a copycat and a replacement. Walter instantly flew into a rage. What kind of people are these on social media? Nora, pass on my orders, tell everyone in our group to drop whatever they're doing and get online. We need to fight back. I remained calm. Wait, Walter. We're not skilled at social media warfare. If we rush in, won't that just make things trend even more? Amy, I've read in novels that people usually hire PR firms for this sort of thing. We've got money, so why don't we spend it? Hey, what's happening to the webpage? The trending topic seems to have disappeared. Nora looked at me, bewildered. I checked the time. Samuel's plane had just landed not long ago. Could he have ordered the trending topic to be removed? After all, being from a top-tier family like the Hartfords, they would naturally want to suppress this kind of trending topic, regardless of whether it was true or not. I could see Walter and Nora looking like they wanted to say something but couldn't. And I knew they thought I was heartbroken. Whether Samuel is a player or not has nothing to do with me. We were just friends with benefits, so stop making up stories in your heads. I continued rummaging through my suitcase. This limited edition Royal Worcester tea set is for you, Walter. And Nora, here are your idol's photos. These were things I'd asked Samuel to get for me, since he had more money than sense. The old and young pair clutched their gifts, beaming from ear to ear. I heard that our club had just received a new batch of high-quality male escorts. Nora noticed I'd been feeling down lately, and convinced me to check them out under the pretense of an inspection. In the private room, I was sitting comfortably on the sofa, while one male escort massaged my shoulders and two others worked on my feet. My hands weren't idle either. One held a slim cigarette, while the other was tracing the abs of one of the escorts. The door was suddenly kicked open with a bang. Amelia! A voice filled with rage reached my ears. Samuel stormed into the private room, his dark eyes blazing with cold fury. He swept his gaze across the male escorts, and if looks could kill, the men around me would have dropped dead instantly. The escorts immediately stopped what they were doing, lowering their heads and trembling slightly under Samuel's invisible pressure. Wasn't he supposed to be with Emily? What was he doing here? Why was he so angry? Did he still think I was his kept woman? That I was cheating on him with these escorts? It wasn't his fault, really. Our relationship had started bizarrely and ended abruptly. Well, might as well make it official now. For the first time in front of Samuel, I dropped my affected voice and spoke firmly. Nora, please escort them out. It was completely different from my previous helpless demeanor. But Samuel seemed unsurprised. Nora shot him a warning glare as she passed by. Samuel walked straight to me, sat down, took the cigarette from my hand, and stubbed it out in the ashtray. He suddenly embraced me and whispered in his magnetic voice, "Darling, you can't do this to me." This man wasn't playing by the rules. I was only away on business for a month, and you're leaving me. I've missed you so much. I pushed him away. Stop. I'm not your darling, and I'm done pretending to be some fragile woman. Go be with Emily Bryant and let's move on. Darling, are you jealous? I'm so happy. Emily? She's leaving for abroad soon and won't be coming back. Don't listen to her nonsense. How could you possibly be a replacement? You're the only one I've ever truly loved. 10 years ago, when Samuel was 17, he was kidnapped and held in a warehouse. The kidnappers called demanding an astronomical ransom. But all their calls were intercepted by Henry. His half-brother didn't want to pay a penny and threatened to call the police, which enraged the kidnappers who then planned to kill Samuel. That's when I appeared out of nowhere, eliminated the two kidnappers, and saved his life. He remembered his savior was a young girl called like Amy, who had a small mole on her ear and wore a fragrant agarwood bracelet. 10 years ago? I was 14 then. As a child, I couldn't match an adult's strength, but being young was also an advantage. Adults tend to underestimate children, which often gives us the element of surprise. It's been quite a while, but I recall those two kidnappers were actually my targets. After eliminating them, I happened to save a young man. Little did I know that the young man I saved was Samuel. The bracelet he mentioned was the agarwood bracelet I'd worn since childhood. Up close, it had a subtle sweet woody fragrance. Because of its distinct scent, Walter always earnestly reminded me not to wear it during missions. But it was left to me by my mother, and I always felt it was my lucky charm that would keep me safe. All these years, Samuel had been searching for his savior, wanting to properly thank them. For years ago, he met Emily. She also had a mole on her left ear and wore an almost identical agarwood bracelet. Plus, her name contained similar sounds to mine. So Samuel mistook her for his savior. That's why he catered to her every whim and request. Until he met me again and finally confirmed I was his true savior. I sneered, "Samuel, do you call anyone who saves your life darling?" Samuel looked at me pitifully. "I've only ever called you darling, no one else. Wasn't Emily your ex-girlfriend? I'm completely innocent. I only treated her well because I thought she was my savior. I wanted to repay her kindness, but I never had those kinds of feelings for her. I never pursued her or considered her my girlfriend. Darling, you have to believe me. Come to think of it, in all their photos and videos, they never even held hands or hugged." I crossed my arms. "So you're only nice to me because you want to repay me for saving you?" Samuel answered honestly. "That's how it started, but as we spent time together, I fell in love with you. So after all this, he only likes the delicate, dependent persona I was playing, not the real me." I pushed him away forcefully. 10 years ago, I didn't specifically set out to save you. It was just coincidence, and you don't need to repay me. You shouldn't keep dwelling on it." I made to leave, but he stood up and grabbed my arm. "Don't go. Darling, why are you angry again? I really like you. Tell me what I did wrong, what made you unhappy. I'll change everything." I shook off his hand. "Do you even know who I am? Do you know my true identity? We're from different worlds, MMPH. Samuel lowered his gaze to the alluring face before him, watching those pale pink lips move. He cupped her face and kissed her fiercely. He was a skilled kisser. But I pushed him away, breathing heavily, and slapped him across the face. "Samuel, are you deaf? We're done." I had meant to say break up, but then I realized that term was for couples. It didn't quite fit for a tycoon and his kept woman. He froze for a moment. I expected him to be angry, but after a second's composure, he said softly, "You were able to take down criminals single-handedly at 14. I know you're not an ordinary person, not as fragile as you pretend to be. Though I haven't uncovered your full background yet. I'm guessing you're part of some assassin organization, aren't you?" I nodded. "I'm a CEO, not a fool. I can make that basic deduction at least." Well, now he's getting proud of himself. "Then why didn't you come to see me for a whole month?" I pressed. Samuel wrapped his arms around me. "Henry sent me a photo of you. I was terrified he might hurt you. I thought if you weren't by my side, he might think you weren't important to me, that you'd be safer that way. After Sean kidnapped you last time, I was really scared. This time, through some university contacts, I hired the most powerful mercenary organization internationally. I only dared to come find you after Henry was dead." I arrived at the Hartford mansion again. The butler greeted us at the entrance, and I called out, "Joseph." He smiled warmly and pleasantly. "Miss Walton, you've finally returned. During your absence, Mr. Hartford has been in a foul mood every single day. Joseph, could you heat up 2 glasses of milk for us?" Samuel asked. He held my hand as we went upstairs to his room. He pressed me against the door, his lips claiming mine as his tongue sought entrance. I naturally wrapped my arms around his neck. He immediately deepened the kiss. A knock on the door made us break apart. The butler left the milk and exited the room. Samuel closed the door and quickly removed his shirt, deliberately showing off his perfectly toned abs. He knew exactly how to tempt me. I blushed. "I'm going to take a shower first." When I came out, Samuel handed me a glass of milk and watched me drink it all. It was a habit from when I previously stayed here. He'd said I was too thin and needed to gain weight. insisting I drink milk every morning and night. So I was completely unsuspecting. Before I lost consciousness, I thought, oh no, someone's drugged the milk. Could one of Samuel's enemies have bribed a maid? Samuel and I had only just reconciled, and now it seemed I was headed for an early grave. I slowly opened my eyes, feeling weak all over. Samuel sat by the bed, looking at me tenderly. Darling, you're awake. I observed my surroundings still in Samuel's room. Thankfully, we were alone and safe. Trying to turn over, I discovered my hands and feet were cuffed. Sam, you drugged me, you psycho. I struggled with all my might, finding the handcuffs extremely secure. They weren't the playful kind, but the inner rings were lined with soft padding to prevent chafing. Custom handcuffs. This pervert was truly mental. He calmly agreed, okay, if you say I am, then I am. But it wasn't that kind of drug, just something to make you feel weak. I checked with the doctor, it has no side effects. Oh, how thoughtful of you. I glared at him fiercely, release me now, or you're dead. He kissed my forehead, I'd gladly die by your hands. But before that, I must satisfy you properly. I was puzzled, what do you mean? You went looking for male escorts, touching other men's abs. It's my fault for neglecting my duties as a boyfriend. Let me make it up to you. Your fault? More like you're trying to punish me. I stared at his devilishly handsome face as he undid his robe and leaned down. Was this the legendary combination of perfect looks and mental instability? Looking at those lean abs and waistline, my throat went dry. My anger subsided considerably. Well, since I couldn't resist, might as well enjoy it. Samuel looked refreshed. Now that you're awake, I'll get your breakfast. Look at him being all servile. I grabbed his robe, let's settle last night's score first. He knelt beside the bed, appearing sincere but not the least bit remorseful. I shouldn't have drugged you, I'm sorry. My mouth twitched. How does a CEO manage to kneel so smoothly? I patted his face gently, what else? Don't the handcuffs count as wrong? He stubbornly insisted, that's different, it was punishment, and I was right. Since I was already cuffed, arguing about right and wrong seemed pointless. Then I had a thought, so if you were wrong, can I cuff you too? His eyes lit up, I'll gladly accept your punishment. Ugh, why do I feel like I've fallen into his trap? What a cunning man. We'll save that for later, let me think about it. I got up to freshen up. He hurriedly followed, preparing my toothbrush with toothpaste. I burst out laughing, can't you act like a proper CEO? He handed me a cup of water, grinning. When it's just us two, who cares about being a CEO? For you, I'm just a devoted puppy. Emily Bryant is leaving for abroad tomorrow. She wants to meet us at the tea house to apologize to you in person. Would you like to go? Samuel asked me after hanging up the phone. I stared at him silently. He immediately explained, darling, don't look at me like that. We haven't had any private contact, I've blocked her everywhere. It was her father who contacted me because we have some business dealings. I can't help but feel she's up to no good. Even CEOs can be rather dense sometimes. Of course I'll go, I said airily. She wants to apologize in person, after all. I wouldn't want to appear petty by refusing. I pushed open the door to the private room. Emily was dressed to the nines. Why are you alone? Where's Samuel? She asked anxiously. Samuel had just received a phone call and was outside. But I didn't tell her that. I sat down and removed my sunglasses. Well? Weren't you going to apologize? Do you need Samuel present for that? I'm busy, so make it quick. She pointed at me furiously. You're just putting on an act. Samuel's been deceived by you. If he saw your true nature, he would never love such a crude, uncivilized woman. Samuel walked in and roared, Emily Bryant. What do you think you're doing? If your father hadn't begged me to let you apologize in person, I would never have agreed to this. He took my hand. Darling, I'm so sorry. If I'd known she wasn't sincere about apologizing, I would never have let you come. Let's go. The Bryant family will pay for this. Emily desperately grabbed Samuel's arm. Samuel, she was molested in the orphanage when she was young. She's damaged goods. She's not worthy of you. Slap. Samuel struck Emily hard across the face. He looked at her menacingly. Don't call me Samuel like we're close. It makes me sick. If I hear it again, I'll tear your mouth apart. Slap. He struck her again, harder. And Amelia Walton is my girlfriend. You don't get to slander her. Your family can prepare for bankruptcy. Emily couldn't believe Samuel would hit her even after what she'd revealed. Still clutching her face, she persisted desperately. Everything I said is true. I have proof, look at these photos. I have videos too, and witnesses. She reached for an envelope on the table. I don't know about other orphanages, but the one I stayed in was hell. We were always hungry, cold, and sleep-deprived. The caretakers were constantly shouting, older children bullied the younger ones. And the headmaster was a pedophile. That's why I ran away from the orphanage. Thankfully, I met Walter. Even though Walter had already dealt with the orphanage situation years ago, Emily was determined to dig up events from over a decade ago. Emily looked at me smugly, thinking Samuel would surely despise me now. Shut up, you wretch. Samuel kicked Emily aside. I had never seen Samuel so furious before. The temperature in the private dining room seemed to drop several degrees. He turned to me with concern and tenderness in his eyes, trying to control his anger as he said gently, "Darling, let's go. I'll have someone handle this." He put his arm around me, attempting to lead me out of the room. I gently removed his hand from my shoulder. I'm fine, don't worry. I walked over to Emily, crouched down beside her and said, "Did you hear that? Even if I'm tainted as you say, Samuel still calls me his darling. Given up yet? By the way, that old man never touched me. The night he tried, I made sure he'd never try again. Sorry to disappoint you." I grabbed her hair and whispered in her ear. "I know you were behind the trending topic last time. I was willing to let it go when you went abroad, but you had to pull this stunt. You're asking for trouble." Emily trembled in fear. Finally realizing her situation, she crawled to her knees and repeatedly bowed her head, begging for forgiveness in a pathetic display. I ignored her and left the room. I knew Samuel wouldn't let her or the Bryant family off easily. Samuel followed closely behind me, speaking cautiously. "Darling, I'm so sorry. I had no idea this would happen. Please don't be angry, it breaks my heart to see you upset. Take your anger out on me if you need to." I replied casually, "All right, I'll punish you when we get home." After closing the bedroom door, I pushed him towards the bed. "Lie down." Samuel obediently lay down without hesitation. I took out his custom handcuffs and secured him to the bed, just as he had done to me last time. I straddled him. Samuel's Adam's apple bobbed several times. "Darling, is this punishment?" Actually, I wasn't angry with him at all. I didn't think he'd done anything wrong. On the contrary, his reaction had pleased me immensely. I smiled sweetly. "No, this is a reward, my love." Extra chapter, Samuel's perspective. When I was 17, I was kidnapped. It was actually orchestrated by Henry, who paid people to do it. While our father was abroad on business, Henry intercepted all the ransom calls. His plan was for the kidnappers to abandon me in that warehouse when they couldn't get their ransom, leaving me to starve to death, or to anger them enough to kill me outright. Unfortunately for him, he hadn't counted on my rescue. Just as the kidnappers were about to stab me, a young woman appeared out of nowhere, taking down both criminals with lightning speed. After 3 days without food, I lay on the ground and croaked, "Help me!" She crouched down, turned my face towards her, and examined it carefully. But I was only hired for the killing job, though it would be such a waste to let such a handsome young man die. "I'll call an ambulance for you." She wore a black baseball cap and black face mask. I couldn't see her face, only her clear eyes, long lashes, and a small birthmark on her left ear. She wore a 3-loop agarwood bracelet, and I could smell its faint, sweet woody scent. It was somehow comforting. As she turned to leave, I quickly asked, "What's your name?" She looked back at me, pondering for a moment. "Amy." Later, when I finally found her, I brought her to the Hartford mansion. My assistant did manage to find some information about her, but it was clearly fabricated. It made sense someone with her abilities couldn't possibly have an easily traceable background. Her guest room was bugged, and I couldn't understand why she said she'd only stay for a week or two. I had to treasure every moment we had together. She was strange, trying hard to act fragile. I didn't mind if it made her happy, it made me even happier. When she pretended she couldn't walk, I got to carry her. I chose horror films so she would hide in my arms. During thunderstorms, I had an excuse to stay in her room all night. I showered her with gifts, took her to private dining experiences, exclusive film screenings, and private amusement parks. I showed her my family's country estates, private yachts, and private islands. If we'd had more time, I would have done even more. I was convinced that once she got used to this lifestyle of the elite, these sophisticated dates, this constant attention, how could she ever look at another man? This was my strategy, raising her standards. But I could tell she was rather indifferent to all of this. She seemed more interested in me physically. Well, whatever works to win her over.